It is my current goal to do a solo challenge using all 493 available Pokemon in the National Dex for Pokemon Heart Gold. Oh boy, that is going to be a tall order, isn't it? But today we are getting started by taking a look at Leafeon, because I'm in the middle of doing an Eeveelution line summer event, I guess is what we're going to call that. And the reason today that we are taking a look at Heart Gold instead of Platinum is simply... I just like this game better. The big thing for me was that, unfortunately, there was a big problem for me around the time that these games came out, which is that I was in school and we got to a point where at our age, suddenly Pokemon wasn't cool. And I was trying to be, I guess, kind of fitting in. So I'd be like, oh yeah, haha, same, Pokemon's totally lame these days, guys. And I was like secretly still playing, but I didn't have a DS yet. I didn't play these games for a number of years. I desperately wanted to. So I really was just still playing through Gens 1 through 3. And it wasn't until probably my mid-20s that I first finally got to play Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which is crazy because I really loved Generation 2. And because of that same reason, I wanted to basically just say that, like, I know this is not the exact same game, but it's close enough, right? I know the beats, I know the storyline, I know there's a couple things that change here and there, like you have to go against Ho-Oh, and there's an extra thing with the Kimono Girls later on instead of early on. Some of the HMs have moved just a little bit, so there's, I guess, some little inconsistencies, but it's basically the same game. So I'm going to be very familiar with where I'm going, which is great for doing something with a Pokemon that I am not very familiar with. And again, it's a region that I really like, and while I don't think they necessarily got this one perfect, it's definitely a better balance than the original games were. That was kind of the main downside to those games. So I'm really looking forward to taking a Leafeon, an Eeveelution through this game and having it be just a little bit more balanced, we'll say. And this is Leafeon, obviously, because it's got leaf in the name, it's a grass type. And when you look at that move pool on the side, a lot of those moves are, of course, grass. Now, this is also fortunate that there's quite a few normal type moves, but finally we're starting to see some interesting type coverages here. You have a little bit of stuff going on with like Dig, which is great, Shadow Ball, which is awesome, Aerial Ace, Rest. I mean, everyone basically gets Rest, but it's in there. And while Rock Smash is not very powerful, it is a fighting type move, so you never know. Maybe that could come in handy. Now, another really fascinating part about this Pokemon here is the fact that it does learn the move Sunny Day naturally, which is pretty cool, but also you have to consider the fact that it doesn't then have Solar Beam. So the Grass-type Pokemon can learn the Fire-type move through Level Up, and Flareon, the Fire-type, does not. Okay. I mean, fine, I guess. It's just odd also the fact that we're doing this when A, we don't naturally get Solar Beam, and then also B, you don't have hidden abilities. That doesn't come until the next generation. So for now, it doesn't really make sense because it's not giving us any kind of extra boosts. But again, more balance in the game, I promise. As you can see, and maybe you caught earlier on when I was selecting my Pokemon, I made sure that I used Leafeon as the replacement for Chikorita, since they are both grass types. Therefore, it would keep the rest of the game pretty much honest to the way that it would be if I chose a starter type Pokemon. Starter type? Starter Pokemon. There's no such type as starter. That'd be interesting. You could only use it in the beginning of the game. Actually, no. Cut that part, Colin. And trademark that or something. Send that into Game Freak. That's a $50 idea, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so now that I have for sure cut that part out of the video, I can move on and say that the next part that we have here in the intro is simply to go into the professor's lab, and we're going to tell the police officer what the name of our rival is, because this is still during a time where we get to name our rival. I do kind of miss those days, although it does make sense that, we're seeing a little bit more standardized names and stuff like that. Like, they're just NPCs, they are other characters. But here I am going to name this time around, I'm going to go ahead and name my rival after someone who I would say is, near and dear to me, and that is Carp. That is Dark Carp. I've mentioned him in previous videos, but check out his channel, youtube.com/@darkcarp. Great dude. Another Pokemon creator, but also does some variety stuff. We do some streaming and we do some Let's Plays together in other places, and that's just pretty neat. Great guy. And now that I'm done yapping about all that other stuff, let's get to Sprout Tower. After you make your way to Violet City, you have to go to Sprout Tower, at least within this generation. In Generation 2, you could skip it. It was optional. It's just a nice place to go for some extra experience. And if you really want to pick up Flash, that's the place and time to do it. But here in this generation, if you go to the gym, the guy that is I don't even know what to call him, the gym guide person, the one that's always like, yo, champ and making, you want to go up against the hothead Blaine? You better douse his spirits with some water and make sure you bring some burn heals. He does not have an accent. They've never kind of given him one in the way he talks, but it just feels funny to say. Anyway, here in this generation, when you go there, he's like, hey, yo, come back in 5. We are not ready. Please come back. So that's exactly what they do. You basically are told, go to Sprout Tower, get some training, or train rather there. And that is honestly, I think, for the better. The big thing here is that usually with certain Pokemon, I would want to have that option to make this optional and to just skip ahead, get to the fights, bada bing, bada boom. The big thing here, though, is that Leafeon is a grass-type Pokemon, and we're about to go to the flying-type gym. Now, I understand that we are in the beginning of the game. Everything is going to be a little bit more even keel. Everything's a little bit more of an even playing field here for everybody because everyone's still so weak and so, just sort of in the same place in terms of most Pokemon are only going to have 1 or 2 moves, maybe 3. But that is something to consider, is having more than 2 moves and what that could mean. There's also another key factor that happened starting in Generation 3 and is here in this game as well, and that is abilities. First and foremost, again, I am going up against something that I am weak to, but I do also have the move Sand Attack in my move pool here. And it's like, oh wow, what a great opportunity. You can use that and potentially live through some extra turns because maybe you won't get hit. That could go nicely for you. But that's the problem. Remember, again, just mentioned abilities, and both of these Pokemon have the ability Keen Eye, which means that they cannot have their accuracy debuffed. Whew, boy. And then, of course, not only is there Gust on the learn set for this Pidgeotto, but also Roost, which means that he's going to be able to heal up while I cannot. Because I don't know if this is maybe potentially your first video here, but I can't use items in battles. Not in the solo challenges. That's the rule. That's the goal now. And so therefore I have to find a way to just kind of magically make it through in pure happenstance against this Pidgeotto. And as you can see, it starts off pretty bad. That first one, that's a reset. Now, it is possible that potentially with the right amount of usages of tackle and getting some critical hits and stuff like that, maybe I could have a better run. But I just don't like the concept of having to potentially go through this multiple times just to get there. And so I think that with basically the same amount of time, but with fewer resets, I leave and I come back after leveling up twice so that I can get Razor Leaf, a move that, while is not super effective, is a move that gets the same type attack bonus, so it is a little bit stronger. And this time we do defeat Faulkner, so we get to get that first badge and move on at 26 minutes, which is not ideal. It doesn't feel great, but you know what? I will take it. We're trying something new, and sometimes you just kind of have to take what you get, and you don't get upset. Now that we are done with that, we're on to gym number 2, and just like the Crystal videos that I do, I'm not going to show you the Team Rocket stuff. It's boring. We don't need it. So, I've already defeated the Rockets that are down in the Slowpoke well. And so that means that we get to move on here to this next badge. Here in Azalea Town, we have a little bit of a problem that I wasn't really kind of getting to in the beginning of the video while describing some of the problems, I guess, for Leafeon. One of the biggest things here is that this is a bug type gym, and Kakuna and Metapod aren't hard or bad. I mean, yeah, Kakuna has Poison Sting, and that's pretty rough. But the fact that I'm starting with Scyther, I guess, is also maybe for the best, because then the last two Pokemon shouldn't be hard. But getting poisoned means that I can die, just like in the middle of a Metapod, which is embarrassing. But Scyther is super effective against me. Luckily, it does not have Wing Attack, which it could technically have because it's bug flying. And, you know, in Generation 2, in this sort of section of the game, when you're going up against Bugsy, normally there is the move Fury Cutter, which is a great move, but a lot like Rollout, which we'll see coming up in a bit, don't you worry. It's a move that gets stronger with every single passing turn. So that usually would be a problem for me. The issue here is that what we're going up against is U-Turn, and U-Turn is extremely powerful, and it has the funky little feature of also sending Scyther back. So that means that whenever he attacks, he hits me for a lot of damage and then sends out either Kakuna or Metapod, which then if I get poisoned and then he comes back, that's kind of a double whammy happening there. But again, the other issue that we're facing is the fact that with U-Turn, it leaves, which would get rid of any kind of stat changes. So unless I am able to have a perfect sand attack drop and then reappearance and everything like that, it's going to survive everything. So what I have to do is I have to go out and about into the real world and train for quite a bit. And then what I decided to do is just to get one last little bit of experience points, I went like as if I was going to go towards the next town, and I go up against the rival again. And I'm just going to take this little bit to basically boost me up to one more level above where I am now, getting myself to level 22. But even this is not necessarily a guaranteed win, and this actually could have also gone pretty poorly because Quilava is, you know, fire type, and that could have knocked me out as well. So not ideal, but I will take in this moment a new move, which is Quick Attack. Quick Attack is going to be necessary for going up against the Scyther, because one of the biggest issues too is not only is 22 the level that I need to learn that move with, but at level 21, it was outspeeding me with Quick Attack. And so if I am able to whittle Scyther down, I want to be able to use Quick Attack to finish it off so that it does not finish the fight for me. And so there you have it right there. That is the move in action. That is what we needed. Quick Attack gets Scyther down, and so then therefore Metapod is an easy win. Just a little bit of grinding, and after a few losses and kind of saying we need to reevaluate, we finally come back and are victorious. We also get the move U-Turn. We can't use U-Turn, and so therefore that is the end of this section of the game. And then of course there's a little bit of a puzzle to do in order to get back, and that's always sort of fun to see. I guess I could leave it in. I was thinking here to myself, maybe I could just cut some of this, but I guess it's kind of interesting to see just how long these new additions are in the game. Then, what's kind of also still new, but also the same-ish, I mean, there's like a weird little maze in Generation 2, as well as in this generation, to get to Whitney. So I go through, I fight through a couple people that are basically mandatory fights. I heal up and then I come back, and here we have Whitney. The Clefairy goes down in one hit, so that feels quite nice. The fact that Miltank was almost two-shot is also nuts. It just takes 3 hits of Razor Leaf and we are done. We luckily had to level up so much in order to get past the last gym that this is a time where coming into the 3rd gym, we were pretty much kind of a guaranteed win there. We weren't having any moves that were super effective against us, and we weren't super effective against them either, but we were also using special attack instead of regular attack. So it was all kind of evening out and working nicely. And after her temper tantrum, we get our badge and we move on to the 4th city in Ecruteak. And before you can get the badge in Ecruteak, you have to go to the Burned Tower. And I love this generation, like, and the remake version of this, because I understand that, like, we're using kind of like almost like a 3D landscape-ish in order to showcase, like, hey, yeah, you're about to go downstairs and you're going to see these 3 dogs. But it's also great because it's kind of like, how does no one else see these dogs? Like, it's very clear that they're there. And everyone else is just kind of going, whoa, what could we be looking for? We don't really know. We just know that something's happening. And that something that's happening is me kicking the butt of my rival once again. And then kind of like in Pokemon Crystal, you get the dogs to get a move on. And then Suicune still comes by to be like, hey, yo, what's up? I'm kind of taking an interest in you. Eugene's like, whoa, what's happening? I want to know everything because I want to see Suicune. That's how I imagine he sounds. That's what he sounds like in my head. He's always there at that tower and he's like, yeah, I'm here with my really super cool friend Morty, and he's got like a whole vibe going on, and my vibe is that I juggle. I have a Fushigi ball. What are you gonna do about that one, huh? Let's see Suicune resist this. And Suicune is kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard, dog. All right. Anyway, now we are here, though. Now that we've said hello to the dogs, Suicune's giving us a little run around. Eugene's been like, I could maybe juggle an even extra ball. I'm getting pretty good at this while I'm waiting. And then we make our way into the gym because, you know, now Morty's like, all right, cool. I guess it's back to my 9 to 5 effectively. And speaking of that 9 to 5, we are at that gym for Morty, finally kind of getting here and getting an opportunity to go up against him. We have an interesting challenge, I guess, perhaps in this one. You see, in past generations, something that we've talked a lot about is the fact that the ghost Pokemon, at least for the Generation 1 ghost Pokemon, were poison/ghost. Well, ghost? Okay. Ghost/poison. That should not have been that hard to say. But because of that, usually moves like Dig would be great here. The problem is that this team that Morty has right now, they all have Levitate. So it doesn't matter if I have Dig on my learn set, it's not going to hit. So I have to kind of rely on a move that is not super effective, which is Razor Leaf. Luckily, I'm kind of a high enough level that it's doing at least, you know, a one-shot for the Ghastly. It's a 3-hit for Gengar. Haunter should be, I think, a 2-hit on all of these accounts, but the problem is something like Sleep can really put me behind, and of course, Dream Eater then heals this Pokemon. It also does not wake me up. Curse does so much damage, so that's going to be another reset. This is just such a stark difference between like Generation 2 and Generation 4 here, because if I was able to have Leafeon in Pokemon Crystal, this fight would have been a done deal pretty much immediately. Like, we would have been long past this gym by this point. But here I am on my 3rd attempt, and I'm getting through, and so far I'm having better luck, but that is going to be really dependent on how quickly I can wake up, and there it is. I do wake up immediately. So that is a huge difference. Luckily, the second Haunter cannot put me to sleep, but it can still curse me. But this time, it doesn't matter. He chooses, honestly, not the correct move at all. He should have gone on the offensive there. He did not. And so therefore, we get the 4th badge here at Ecruteak, and I can use the special little trick of just sort of purposefully messing up the puzzle so that we can warp back to the beginning and get out. Then, after a lot of moving around and checking out some of the side roads, going up a lighthouse to talk to Jasmine, we make our way down to Cyanwood, and here there's a totally different challenge. Originally, you needed the move Strength, and then you were moving stones, and then of course, Chuck also effectively used Strength as a human being, not with a Pokemon, and he uses that move to chuck one of those same stones on top of a statue, which is interesting. But this time around, it's like a, hey, fight all the trainers here like you normally would, and then turn off a waterfall. Because, you know, training under a waterfall for sure makes sense for Chuck. Anyway, Razor Leaf almost one-shots Primeape, which is actually pretty crazy. I mean, we're 10 levels above. The leveling has not really been perfected in this generation, which is unfortunate. But Poliwrath lives on like 5 health. I really did think we were going to one-shot at least Poliwrath. But even though we were like not super effective against half of his team, and they weren't super effective against us at all, we make it through there with flying colors. So that is the 5th badge done and dusted. Now, I mentioned earlier dig and having that move for the previous part of the run and not really needing it yet. The funny thing is, though, is that I did forget that I hadn't picked it up yet. So then I had to make my way back to the national park and do a little bit of exploration here. I couldn't remember exactly where it was. I knew it was a thing, but there's them using something from a different game. Then here, though, I can make my way all the way around the corner. Dig is in this corner, and I'm going to pick that up because I am going to need that for really the rest of the run. That is going to be a move that we have and we're going to use pretty much against almost every person from here to the end. So it is definitely a usable move. I just couldn't use it in the 4th gym, so I hadn't even noticed that I didn't have it. Now that I have it, though, it's going to be perfect for going up against Jasmine. Magnemite, the first 2 Pokemon that she has, are both quad weak to the dig move, and then for Steelix, it's only ×2 effective. For a brief moment, I tried Razor Leaf, thinking that maybe a special attack against its kind of lack of special defense might be a better move, but in the end, having something that is just effective or super effective in some capacity is just the better move. So I switch back over to dig and we get the next badge. This time around, it is going to be the 6th one. Sometimes, we swap around the 6th and 7th one just because you have that option. It is a little non-linear in this way. So we are doing it in the, I guess, correct order, the way God intended. Then we are on our way to Price's gym. This is a puzzle that is different than it was in the original game, and it took me, unfortunately, an embarrassing amount of time to realize what I was actually doing. It was a thing where I haven't played this game in years, so there was a little bit of wandering around as I went, how do I do this? Where am I pushing this thing to? It was extremely simple, and I felt silly when I finally did it and went, oh, that's easy. That was nothing. Why was I making that into a whole thing? Well, we all have our, lesser than fine moments in our lives. For me this week, it was mostly my PC just simply refusing to work until I disassembled it and then reassembled it entirely. It's another reason why this video is late. All my stuff kept crashing. And speaking of crashing, there were some options for some waves to come crashing into me, but they did not. And so I get all the way to Piloswine before I take any damage, which is actually pretty lucky because it did a lot of damage there. But then Giga Drain is all I need to get most of that back and also finish this thing off. We are nice and kind of tied up in a pretty little bow with 7 badges. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff that you do because of Team Rocket, and that's annoying. And then once that's over, you move on to a puzzle that got added in for this generation specifically. And it's not really hard, but it is annoying. And I don't know, maybe that's me slightly wearing the nostalgia glasses. I don't know. It's possible, I'll admit. But I kind of think that I'm right. Anyway, after this nostalgically less interesting puzzle that you solve here at the 8th gym, it is time to go up against Claire. Now, Claire is interesting. Claire's team is mostly the same as it is in Gen 2. The only difference is to kind of make her a little bit more of a Lance Light or a Lance Junior Lance, whatever. They also take out her first Dragonair and give her a Gyarados. I kind of feel like they could have given her Gyarados and then her 3 Pokemon and then Kingdra, but that would make it way more difficult because as you can see here, we're going to skip a bunch of moments because I wiped out here again and again and again and again. And it's frustrating because it's one of those classic moments where nothing is necessarily super effective against me. The things that I'm dealing with are all things that I can handle. It's just nothing is getting one-tapped, and then I'm also getting paralyzed, which of course makes me slower because my speed is getting halved. So I just keep going into this fight and I keep doing okay damage. I keep doing okay performance. But after getting my attack dropped a little bit, due to Intimidate, of course, here by Gyarados, it means that my Razor Leaf is just not as powerful. which means that Giga Drain is then going to be the thing that I have that does some decent enough damage with the grass typing to get the same type attack bonus, but it's not really going to be enough either. And then Dig is there. I have Hidden Power, which is okay enough for the Dragonairs, and I do have to Giga Drain my way through Kingdra, but because it has a dragon like half typing, it's not super effective, so we kind of barely just hang on. And then here, finally, by the skin of our teeth, Hidden Power takes care of business. I survive on 9 health. Whew, boy, and after far too many resets, we are finally done with this section. Now, one of my only complaints about Heart Gold and Soul Silver is that there's a lot of things and a lot of quality of life things within the game that get a fix, and that makes it feel so much more, I don't know, more detailed and more easily to run. But then you also have some really, really weird pacing choices. Like, for example, after Gym 8, they completely sideline the progress immediately to make you go back home. Then you have to go back to Ecruteak, fight for a couple of people or fight for a couple of reasons in order to have the Kimono Girls be around. And then the Kimono Girls make you go to the tower, and then you fight Ho-Oh or, you know, whatever. And then you catch Ho-Oh. It's a lot. There's so much happening here. And it's just kind of that thing of, after dealing with Team Rocket and all of the other storyline stuff that's just a little, I don't know, lackluster, but at least, you know, kind of skippable-ish within this generation, at least when it comes time to editing and kind of pumping through this section quickly. Getting to this part and having sort of this like hamstringing moment where suddenly you are ripped out of the progress into a almost dead halt once again, just because you have to do this before you can move on. It's weird. I don't really care for it. Ho-Oh, take it or leave it. It doesn't really matter because I'm not taking it with me. I can only take Leafeon. And that is exactly what you see happening here, because we have now officially entered Indigo Plateau and, of course, the Elite Four. First up is Will, which is kind of a little bit of a switch up from Lorelei in the kind of, you know, first generation games here, but there still is a little bit of crossover, right? You still have Slowbro, you still have Jinx, and the psychic typing isn't super effective against me as a grass type. I'm going to say as a leaf type, as a grass type. But what is super effective, unfortunately, here is the flying type moves and the ice type moves. That's a little bit of a hangover, crossover, a little bit of a leftover. That's the word, I think. A little bit of a leftover from Lorelei. Like, there's still some similarities here, and that gives us just enough trouble here for Leafeon. I typically think that most of the Elite Four's first trainers or leaders or whatever are kind of easier than the rest, right? Because it should be progressively harder, kind of the same way that the gyms are. And it should feel kind of like, you know, ready to go. But unfortunately, Will is actually a little bit of a challenge here for Leafeon. Again, also solo challenges are clearly never always the same as running with a full 16, because you can kind of have some answers for some of these Pokemon, whereas a solo challenge might not have an answer for these. In this case, we are lucky that we still have Hidden Power Ice, which we are mostly holding over for Lance later on, but that is actually super effective against 3 of these Pokemon, which gives us a better chance to make it through. And if we can get to this part right here, which we have, luckily this time Slowbro is our final opponent, and so it doesn't really matter what move he uses. Will's not going to get past me because I now have a move that is super effective against it. That's like the best case scenario, is getting to Slowbro as the final Pokemon. So with RNG on our side, or at least for the last one, we finally get up to Koga. Koga, no longer a gym leader, but now this time in the Elite Four. His team is finally, unlike the Pokemon Yellow team, is actually very much a poison team. 4 out of 5 are poison. Still has a little bit of a leftover, if you will, from the original Pokemon Yellow sort of lineup of it's mostly bug. There is 3 bug here. But Fortress is such an interesting choice. I love this addition because I get that, like, it's that thing of sometimes you also have to kind of go for the aesthetic as well, not just the poison. And here the aesthetic, of course, is ninja for Koga. So you have someone that is kind of known for like explosion and some some options for defense, and also a little bit like some smoke screenage. He doesn't use that here, but just in general. Fortress, though, is the biggest problem that we have on his team, just because we don't really have anything that's super effective against it. I mean, we do with Dig, but the AI is smart enough to know to use Protect on the second turn, so it's never going to hit. So I do need to just sort of whittle it down and whittle away. Luckily, Mega Drain, or Giga Drain rather, is enough to kind of also get us back a little bit of HP as the Swift kind of tears us down a little bit. And so after just sort of chipping away slowly but surely, we make it past Koga. And now it's on to Bruno. Bruno is, I think, to give him some benefit of the doubt here, Bruno is better in this generation. Oh boy, I mean that counter is pretty devastating when you really look at it. A counter is always pretty devastating. It's such an easy one-shot if you live it, or sorry, if they live it, it's such an easy one-shot against you, I think is the better way of wording that. But he is actually better in this generation. Part of it is just he picks better moves at times. And the team is a little bit built out more. It is actively more fighting than it is like kind of like a Brock Senior is sort of how he always feels, like another version of Brock. Here he kind of feels like his own guy. One less Onyx and the Hitmontop edition, which is cool. Hitmontop is an interesting Pokemon. I wish it was a better Pokemon than it is. I don't know why the Hitmons sometimes are very hit or miss. But the other thing too, though, is that there's a little bit better type coverage because now you have all like the fire punches, the ice punches, things like that. So that makes Hitmonchan honestly a very scary foe to go up against. Luckily, all of these Pokemon don't have great special defense, so a lot of the times I can kind of get by with a special move, although Razor Leaf is a physical attack, but I get the same type of attack bonus, so that does feel like it's the correct answer. And even if it's not, it was at least for me today because it is what got me over the finish line. And therefore, we get to move on to Karen. Karen has such a cool team. I love the Dark type, especially the introduction within the original version of this game in Generation 2. Umbreon is a great design. We saw it recently in another video. Really love Houndoom. But for this team here, I don't necessarily have anything super effective against her team. 3 of the Pokemon I have an answer for. Murkrow, Hidden Power, obviously. Vileplume could be either Hidden Power or Dig, just because it is also a poison type. Houndoom, Dig. But really it comes down to Gengar and Umbreon. Those are the 2 that I kind of have no true answers for. It seems like mostly the same type of attack bonus is going to be maybe my best shot. Maybe a Hidden Power, but like the special defense is much better for Gengar, so I really do think it's going to be Razor Leaf, despite it kind of standing up against it. She's going to use a full restore here, which is unfortunate, but because I have Giga Drain, I can get back just enough health that I can survive all of the Focus Blasts that it has, and I can then, of course, win out by chipping away a little bit with the Giga Drain, giving myself some of that HP back, and then hitting with Razor Leaf from time to time. So that is another victory here. And then after healing up, we are going to go up against Lance. Lance is a big concern, actually, for Leafeon. I know that we have Hidden Power Ice, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. Gyarados is always a problem because, of course, it cuts down our attack. And attack is our kind of second best feature here. I mean, defense is clearly Leafeon's best situation, but our special attack is not very good. So we are a physical attacker. 2 of our attacks are physical, but the Dig move isn't going to work against a single member of this team. So that is kind of a bummer. Hidden Power is the best move for 3, if not 4 of these Pokemon. Definitely 4 of these Pokemon. So I finally got rid of Razor Leaf and I got Return on this. I mean, I wiped out a lot here. Sometimes I kind of speed up the entire section, but it was like 10 minutes worth of footage. That even being sped up, that's going to be a lot to chat through. So basically, I would say it's like 95% of the time Charizard is what is killing me. Charizard is such a major problem here because it's flying type, it's fire type. I don't have an answer for it. I didn't have any rock moves that I could really use, so that's the biggest issue. And of course, if I make it through, my next big challenge is Aerodactyl. As long as, see, like, there you go. There's another moment in which it just sort of takes me down, takes me out. So one thing that I've done before in the past year, and it's very rare that I do this. Usually I just kind of keep going at it. But as you can see, I had so many resets. And like I said, it was like 10 minutes worth of footage. It just got to a point where I thought nothing I do here is going to break through. I can't get past Charizard with enough HP. So what I had to do was I finally blacked out, and then I went back through the Elite Four. I went back through all of those same fights. They were easier at this point. Didn't have any resets, so didn't need to really go back and showcase any of that necessarily. It was basically exactly what you saw previously. And then here, now that I'm a couple levels higher, I'm dealing more damage. I'm surviving on things. I'm outspeeding when I need to outspeed. And so I'm getting much better scenarios here. As you can see, at this point, we are now finally down to the last Dragonite. And it is, of course, also the weakest Dragonite that he has, which is kind of like a scenario that we had earlier with the Slowbro. It's like we kind of got the last Pokemon to be the best case scenario for us. It does not have Blizzard. It doesn't have anything super effective against us. So we can easily handle his final Dragonite, and Leafeon finally becomes a champion. That took us way longer than I thought. The pacing in this generation, despite it getting some better quality of life, it just feels slower. I think the game, even at 4 times speed, just seemingly runs slower because I guess there's just more animation or something. I should look into why that really is the case. But this took us 3 hours and 44 minutes. But hey, at the end of the day, I can't complain. We made it through. We did the win. We got to see a cool new Eeveelution. And that gets us to the second to last Pokemon that we're going to be doing in this series. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you thought it was interesting that we were taking kind of another glance at a game that I've played a bunch here already, but seeing it through like a new lens. There's just a lot of new things to try here this week. And I feel like that was kind of a joy for, at least for me. I hope it was for you as well. If you've made it this far into the video and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, it would be awesome if you would do so at this time. I know that we all hate the like and subscribe thing, but any kind of interaction that you have with a small-time creator like myself, whether it's sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing, all that goes a long way for small creators like myself, and I really appreciate it. And I've got so much more that we've got planned for this year, so I would love if you would stick around. So be kind to yourself, be excellent to one another, and I will see you next week for another solo challenge in Pokemon Heart Gold.